Needham put out a note on Alphabet this week, the firm calculating a 50% upside for shareholders if the Justice Department decides to break up the tech giant. Joining us now is another analyst who covers Alphabet, John Freeman from CFRA. He has a buy rating on the stock. So is it that simple, John, the sum of the parts, is it worth more than the whole, or is there a beautiful synergy when you put them all together? What would you rather have?
Right. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I definitely agree with you. By the way, thank you for having me this morning. I agree with Needham that the sum of the parts would definitely be more valuable. A breakup along those very clean sort of lines with YouTube and Waymo and the search business. But I don't think that regulatory risk is the most likely or the most damaging. I think an intrusive regulation of Google's core search business, which represents 80% of its revenue, is the more potentially damaging, outcome with really kind of unintended consequences. And the reason is because for Google and for Facebook as well, they pose a real risk and influence and power now over politicians themselves who are writing this legislation. And that was kind of the new sort of also twist from the Judiciary Committee announcement last week. That was, they're not only going to enforce antitrust regulations that are on the books, but they're going to look at writing completely new regulations specifically for, Facebook and Google is really what they sort of implied, and their, quote unquote, influence on society and so forth. So it's, both of those entities, both of those companies directly impact, the outcomes of elections and things that, politicians take very personally. So they've got a lot of personal motivation in it, which you didn't see, for example, with, Microsoft or AOL or really, sort of any, antitrust situation that I can think of, at least in tech, in recent memory.
There's just no way that you could say to people, oh, don't worry about the regulatory issues because the parts are worth more. I mean, you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know what multiples are going to be in the entire stock market 2 or 3 years from now. You don't know what tech is going to be valued. There's no way to just say, oh, don't worry about it because the parts are worth more than the whole. This would be an awful, uncertain, and protracted thing, and it looks likely to be that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
which I don't think is a good idea. I don't know what, regulators. There's a reason we have them, but you also need a light touch in a country that's totally based on free markets.
Free market capitalism, absolutely. And if you mess with how do you regulate a search algorithm that constantly, or a set of search algorithms and other, AdWord auction algorithms that are constantly, improving themselves, and Google does this all the time, kind of goading them and experimenting, and would just sort of destroy that whole, that whole model. And I don't think it's really necessary. I do think a lighter touch. One of the things is that the refrain is always that cooler heads will prevail. So hopefully it's tough to say cooler heads even in this political climate. But I think for now we can hopefully stick to that, to the faith in that, right?
Right.